We follow the story of Aria Wolf, a young environmentalist trapped in a dark elevator. She wakes up in distress as her hands are bound behind her back, and her eyes and mouth are covered in cloth. She has no idea how she got there, or why it is happening to her. Aria calms herself, and stands up to get some orientation of the place. She hears fireworks coming from the outside, and immediately starts screaming for help, muffled by the cloth in her mouth. The elevator suddenly lights up and activates the emergency evacuation procedure. It starts dropping down from the 83rd floor at such a rapid speed that Aria floats up into the air. The emergency brakes pop up, gradually stopping the fall before it causes a fatal impact. After a few seconds, the elevator starts ascending at a normal pace. Aria is able to remove the bindings around her hands, then she removes the cloth on her mouth and eyes. The elevator stops at level 52, shaking slightly from the wind. Aria looks around the elevator and tries pressing the buttons, but nothing works. She tries banging on the walls and calling for help, but nobody answered. She sees an exit sign lit green on the elevator roof and tries reaching for it. It is a few inches higher than her, so she tries stepping on the handrail. However, there is nothing for her to grab onto, so she cannot balance herself. She remembers the phone in her back pocket and checks it. Her mom has been trying to contact her several times. There is a recording of what might have happened to her and her family. They seemed to be running away from someone. Her father was driving the car as their pursuers shot at them. They had been in a car crash, and that was where the recording ended. The elevator starts announcing a system error once again, and metal frames fall on top of the elevator, causing it to plummet down again. Because the brakes are still active, it prevents the elevator from going straight down and keeps it stuck for some time. Aria calls 911, but immediately loses connection. A person starts speaking with her through the elevator's emergency call button, but cannot locate her. The communication is cut off abruptly by music playing, and it seems like somebody is controlling the elevator she is in. The elevator brakes retract, sending the elevator down at a rapid pace. Aria wakes up and sees the lifeless body of a man hanging through the digital wall of the elevator before it shuts off. She tries opening the elevator door again. This time she manages to make a small crack, and she tries squeezing through. However, the speaker announces a system error again, and she is thrown back inside as it continues going down. We see a flashback of Aria and her sister Zara when they were younger. She shows her the power she wields and says that it is getting stronger. Their power is connected to nature itself. They show their powers of nature to their parents. Back in the elevator, the digital screen starts showing clips of nature as a Chinese woman says something, like a documentary. Aria receives a call from her mom, instructing her to hide her phone and to find her twin sister, Zara. Suddenly, a knock comes from the other end of the phone, and her mom gets attacked. A few minutes have passed after the call from her mom, and she receives another phone call. This is from Jack, her uncle. She tells him her situation and what happened to her mother. Jack is about to tell her what to do, but their signal is breaking off. She cannot understand what he is saying. Suddenly, laughter echoes from the digital monitor, furiously looking for an engineer. A group of men is beating up her father, following the orders of their boss. A fat old man is wearing glasses, staring at the camera that seems to be looking directly at Aria. Aria calls out to him, and he responds. The old man wants to watch Aria suffer as his men suffered. He orders his men to drop the elevator again, and it immediately plummets down. We see another flashback from when Aria was young. She shows her father the markings on her wrist and tells him that Zara grew the tree in their backyard. She is worried that her father might think that she is a freak. He assures her that he will never think that way. She reveals that she can also see the future. Back in the present, the elevator slowly starts rising up again. Aria feels weak from all the torture she has received from the old man. She regains a connection with Jack and hurriedly tells him that they have been taken. She catches him up with what happened to them in the past few days. Aria and her family went to China for a holiday. When they were at the airport on their way back home, her dad started acting in a panic, claiming that someone found them. Her dad stole a taxi to get away until they crashed, and she ended up trapped in an elevator alone. Jack tells her that the Russian men, led by Yaroslav Krupnov, are after her dad. He is a part of the CIA, and their family had been in witness protection since she was 7. Jack reveals that they are not really related, and he has always been protecting her and her family. He promises to find her before the call cuts off. The screen turns on again, and she sees her father in a worse state than before. Yaroslav cuts off his ear, while his men hold him in place as punishment for resisting. He wants Richard to tell them what they wanted to know, and is using Aria as a pawn for torture to make him speak. He orders his men to drop the elevator once again, causing Aria to pass out. Another flashback of Aria and Zara as kids. Aria is convincing her sister that they should start hiding their powers to protect their parents. Aria wakes up, looking at the mark on her wrist. She struggles to stand up from all the falls she took. She screams out in frustration, but it does nothing to change her situation. When she has finally exhausted her energy, she sits in the corner of the elevator, reminiscing about her memories with her friends and family until she falls asleep. She recalls a memory of her and her sister walking in the woods under heavy rain. Zara took a person's who was harming her pet dog. Aria scolds her and says her actions have consequences, but Zara believes that he deserved it, and that humans are evil creatures. Zara did not want their parents to know about what she had done, and Aria promised her that she would try and change their future. Their parents found them, and Aria took the blame for what her sister did. The display screen starts showing Richard, still getting tortured. The elevator goes down again and abruptly stops, shaking up Aria inside, as the screen loses its connection. She receives another call from Jack, informing her that his men are in Shanghai, doing their best to locate her. He tells her that they both need to be strong, because if her dad tells them what they want, Yaroslav will have no use for them and will surely end their lives. Jack is able to hear Yaroslav through the elevator's speaker when he is taunting Richard with Aria's life. He informs him that Yaroslav is a former FSB operative, but now he is an assassin hired by rich people. She wants to know more about what the men are after. At first, Jack is apprehensive, but finally decides to fill her in. Richard was transporting a child that holds extraordinary powers. The girl's father, a chemical engineer, found a way to advance the abilities of humans beyond imagination. Her father was helping them to get off the grid, as Yaroslav and his men are looking for them. They evaded Yaroslav, with all of his men found lifeless at the bottom of a broken elevator shaft, and Yaroslav himself in a hospital. The girl and her father vanished, and only Aria's father presumably knows where they are. The elevator is now on level 95, and the display monitor starts showing Yaroslav. He notices that the elevator beside her is going up. He orders Anton to check what is going on. Meanwhile, the other elevator catches up to her. A maintenance crew member checks her out, and is confused as to why she is in the restricted area of the building. Aria tries to warn him that it is dangerous, but Anton arrives and shoots him in the head. This pisses him off, and he repeatedly brings her elevator up and down at a rapid speed until her body is battered. She remains lying on the floor, unmoving, and receives a call from Jack. Anton walks closer to the screen as he seems to hear the slight ring of her phone. They turn the communication off for a while to go and check on her. Jack quickly tells her that they are already narrowing down her location, and she just needs to hold on a bit longer. Aria notices the ventilation duct shaking badly because of the strong winds outside. She sees that the CCTV camera is turned off, and she hurriedly kicks the ventilation door until it breaks. She peeks through it and sees how high up she is. She hesitates for a second, but decides to get out of the elevator and climb through the metal supports around the shaft. She immediately realizes that she really cannot go far enough, and returns to her elevator. Jack calls her again. She immediately tells him about the ventilation panel that she found, and thinks that she can get out through that. He discourages her plan, because her being there is keeping her dad alive. If she leaves now, they will take her dad away, and it will be impossible for them to find him. The elevator suddenly moves. Her phone drops out of the ventilation shaft and lands on a metal beam. She squeezes out of the shaft again to get her phone back. She can hear it ringing as Jack tries reaching out to her again. After a long struggle of going down, she is finally able to get a hold of it. Now her next challenge is getting back inside the elevator. This is made harder by the cut wound she got from crawling back inside the shaft earlier. When she gets back inside the elevator, she starts contacting Jack. Yaroslav sees this and starts questioning her. This makes him furious, and threatens to end her and her dad. She tries explaining that the CIA cannot even find them, but he already presses the button and the elevator plummets down at full speed. The brakes activate, and Yaroslav orders her to contact Jack and convince him to reveal the engineer's location. Fearing for her and her dad's life, she contacts Jack and tells him that they found out that she had been talking to him. Jack tells her that they have located her and are now storming the building. This only makes her worry even more, as Yaroslav might find out that the CIA is coming. Jack instructs her to stall them as long as she can. As it turns out, her calls with Jack had already been hijacked by Yaroslav and his men. She had been talking to Yaroslav this whole time, and he is the one giving her the false hope of salvation. She tells Yaroslav to give her a chance to talk to her father alone. Maybe then she can convince him to tell her the truth. Yaroslav agrees with her, given that it is already part of his plan. They leave the two of them to talk, with the hijacked call from Jack still on the line. Richard apologizes to his daughter for not being able to protect her and her mother. She pleads with him to tell her where the engineer is. He tells her that it was just a hoax. There is really no engineer. He made up that story to protect Aria's identity. She is a girl with extraordinary powers, and he kept her abilities a secret so that Yaroslav and his men could not track her down. She asks him about Zara and reveals that it was her sister who took the man's life. She contacts Jack again, and Richard immediately realizes that something is wrong. Yaroslav reveals that he hijacked her phone and feels the triumph that he had already found who he had been looking for. Richard urgently tells her to play the encrypted message on her phone. She obliges, and this triggers her memory, along with her powers. She starts seizing up on the floor, and everything surges back to her. Aria remembers that she tried using her powers when she was a child to change the future. Now she realizes that she failed. She and her father had been captured. Her mother was murdered, and now she sees her father getting shot. The elevator starts rising up, and she reaches the top floor. The door opens, but she decides not to get out. She controls the elevator on her own and brings it down at her own will. This confuses Yaroslav and his men as to how she is doing it. The elevator starts burning down from the speed and friction exerted by the metal surroundings and gravity. Aria uses her powers to disintegrate her surroundings. Her body starts disintegrating as well, into small glowing particles. The whole building starts shaking. Yaroslav and his men hurriedly evacuate, but as they are boarding the elevator, the doors close on Yaroslav. Aria merges her particles with the elevator and brings it down with the men. She rebuilds herself back together and finds her dad breathing weakly from all the torture he received. She apologizes to him for her failure to change the future that is now their present. He is just glad to see her and assures her that it is not her fault. He asks her to find her sister with his last breath.